Okay, so number one in your homework. Were you able to find coordinates for A, B, C, and D, knowing that you had restrictions that the base has to be B long and the height has to be H long? You were able to do it? No?
Yeah.
Okay, so what'd you get for point C, the origin?
0.
Perfect. Because this is at the origin, it is 0, 0 away from the origin. Right? Your base has to be B long and your height has to be H long. So the base is this piece. This is B long. That tells you you move B away from the origin. So where is point D? You're going to go over B, or negative B, and up 0. Does that make sense? Your height of your polygon is H. So this polygon is H tall. How do you get to point B? You go over 0, but up H. And do a combination of those lengths to get to A. Negative B, up H. How do you feel? Is there one on there that was bothering you that you want to jump to next? Like, how did we do with number 2? Good or not good? Not sure? Okay, so the rectangle is centered at the origin. This is the center of the rectangle. And the base is 2B long, and the height is 2H long. So what'd you get for point E, the location of point E?
BH.
It is just BH. From here to here is 2 B's, which means that this piece is B and this piece is B. From here to here is 2H, which means that this piece is H and this piece is H. So you have to go over B and up H to get to E. How would you get to point D? The point delta D. You'd go over 1B and up 1H. So now the distance from D to E is 2 B's long. You go over 1B, over another B, that's how it's still 2B long. That makes sense? Are you getting there? Okay, so because the polygon is 2B wide, there's 1B to the right side of the y-axis and there's 1B to the left side of the y-axis because it's centered there. So to get to point G, you have to go left 1B and down 1H. Negative, negative. So go over here, you have to go right 1B and down 1H. Positive, negative. A trick you can always use is if you're in the first quadrant, your coordinate should be positive, positive. If you're in the second quadrant, your coordinate should be negative, positive. Third quadrant, negative, negative. Fourth quadrant, positive, negative. All right. We did this one in class a couple times, didn't we? Did you remember it? Were you successful, or do you need a refresher? Refresher? Okay, so how big is this square, Ben? X. So it's X wide, it's X tall, it's X wide, and it's X tall. That's your roadmap. Where's point J?
0.
Over 0, up 0. Point I? Over 0, up X. Point H? Over X, up X, so make sure it's a negative X, positive X. Negative X. It's just a little bit of confidence, building confidence. They started to get a little harder, I think. Is it better now? Day 2, it's sinking in a little bit. All right, we have a parallelogram. The parallelogram has height m, so it is m tall. And point Z is j units from the origin. So you should have enough to label everything else. I got a text about this one last night from another teacher. Makes me feel smart.
From another teacher?
Come on, guys. Be smart. Okay, so do we need a variable to identify Z? No, I just go over J up 0. Do I need a new variable to identify W? I'm going to go over 0 and up M. Okay, do they tell us how wide the parallelogram is? No. Okay, now if you actually worked on the whole assignment and you got to the back, the instruction said find the coordinates without using any new variables, which should have indicated to you that you could have done the front with creating new variables. So how wide do you want your parallelogram to be? Z. My parallelogram is now Z wide. Facts. So to get to point Y, you have to go over J and Z. So it's J plus Z. How far up did you go? 0. Now whatever variable you picked, I picked K on mine. It was over J plus K.
Welcome back to the year.
Thursday, January 6th. Sorry for the late announcements, but we were pushing kids to class, so again, make sure you're not tardy. But please stand for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. May be seated. And no win. And we start win on Monday. With win, remember that after 9:55, you are not able to leave the cafeteria, the courtyard, or the library. And if you are leaving a classroom, you must have a pass. So make sure that you are doing that. For the spring semester, Wellness Wednesdays will be during WIN in room A101, so please join the counselors if you are interested in learning relaxation and mindfulness techniques. Also, remember, we do have final exam exemptions for high school students in the second semester. And again, you have to have a minimum of an 85 in a course. No referrals to OSS, CDC, or JJ, AEP. No more than 3 absences total per class period. No more than 3 tardies for the course that you're wanting, and then no more than 10 temporary IDs for the school year, for the semester as well, and then all of your fines and fees paid for. So make sure that we are taking care of that. Beginning next week, we will start wearing our IDs outside of our, so we can see who's all on campus and make sure that everybody that's supposed to be on campus is. And if there's anybody that doesn't have an ID, that we can make sure that if they're trying to make Canyon an unsafe place, we can take care of that. We will be giving away lanyards, and if you need a new ID printed, we will be doing that. Now, you can get that before school, during lunch, or after school. So again, just if you get time, come by and get that. But we'll start really cracking down on that starting next week. So again, we will be wearing our IDs outside on our body so we can see it, so we can make sure the canyon is a safe place for everybody to come to. Hey, Canyon Powerlifting is still looking for a few spots for its girls team. Powerlifting is a great way to improve strength and self-confidence. Powerlifting experience is preferred but not required. Practices are a little under an hour long, and there are only 4 scheduled meets in the regular season. The best part about it is that girls are more likely than boys to place, win a medal, and advance to regionals and state due to weight class sizes and participation numbers. If you want to be part of the foundation of Canyon Powerlifting, come see Coach Leonard in C105 or Coach Hickman in C106. And we want to say good luck to boys and girls soccer today as they participate in their tournaments. And so we all say, go Goose! And that's all we have to show. Make it a great day, Cougars. The choice is yours.
Right. So because my parallelogram is ZY, you have to go over Z and up M to get to point X. Right? I think these are the ones that are starting to get a little bit more difficult. So if you're still with it, you're in a good spot. All right. Kite, MNOP, where PN is 4S long and the y-axis bisects PN. Too much? We have a kite. From P to N is 4 S's long. That's just how it is. They said it, 4S. But the y-axis cuts that PN in half, bisects it. So this length is 2 S's, and this length is 2 S's. So how do you get to N? You go over 2 S's, and you go up 0. How do you get to P? You go over 2 S's to the left, negative 2S, and up 0. Now the problem is they didn't describe any restrictions or any restrictions to get to M or get to O. Well, you make your own. How do you want to get to M? Q?
Yeah.
Over 0, up Q. How do you want to get to O? R. We're going to go over 0 and down R. Which is weird, because you're just making stuff up. Oh, well done. Is that weird?
Yes.
Did anybody think you had to use S there? Almost, right? I see that. Now this is the one that the text message was about. Who struggled with this one? No? So it's kind of the same thing. It says you have triangle ABC where AB from here to here is 2N long. And they say the y-axis is the median. Uh-oh. I remember that word. The median.
Middle?
Yes. It goes from the vertex to the middle. So the origin is exactly in the middle of A and B. So if it's 2 N's wide, how big is it from the origin to B? N. So I have to go over 0. I'm sorry. Bad baker. Over N and up 0 to get to B. How do you get to A? Negative N up 0. Man, only if there was like some, so you could try some fancy math and do like Pythagorean theorem or special right triangles, but why waste the effort? How do you get to C? Just go down. You want to go down C? Sure. We're going to go over 0 and down C. Perfect.
Wait, why'd you get a text about that one?
Because it was like, it's a weird one. Like if you're going through the whole process thinking you have to use n as the variable, do you go down 1 n, 2 n's, 3 n's, a third of an n, a square root of 3 n's? Like, how do you do that?
We have proofs.
So for this one, there is a way to find out where x is without using any new variables.
I prefer not.
You want to know what it is? It's the square root of j squared plus m squared comma 0.
Huh? Can you say that 3 times slower?
The square root of j squared plus m squared comma 0. So you have to go over the square root of j squared plus m squared and then up 0. It's weird. It's really, really weird. Or up m. All right. So these were the no new variables side, right? Number 8. You weren't allowed to create your own variables. Where did D wind up? Over A up 0. This one's very quiz-esque. This one's a very quiz-esque problem. And on your quiz, you're going to have to find the location of D. Struggle or success? Success. So the y coordinate, how far up do you have to go to get to D? You go up C units. From here to here is how far? B. And how long is this one? So this is B long, this is A long, so you have to go over A plus B. So it's A plus B comma C. All right, let's get into the good stuff. So you can put that away. I'll pick that up here in a second as homework. We are, what's up?
So, I haven't finished this,
You're okay.
so.
You're okay. You have a little bit of time. Realistically, I want to do one of these together and leave the other two for you for individual learning. But if we need to go through more, we can go through more together. That's a conversation that you have to have with me. All right? So after the first one, if you feel like you're completely lost, we'll do another one. If you feel like you've gained some confidence, I'll leave one for you for homework. If you still feel like you're completely lost, we'll do the third one together. But you will have one of these on your quiz, a proof, with coordinate geometry, with no numbers. So, it says, I don't want to do this one. I want to do this one first. All right, so here we are. We're reading the proof. Hint, you're going to use the midpoint and distance formulas. You are given that ABCD is a trapezoid. You want to prove that the length of the median, that should say mid-segment, line segment XY, is 1/2 the length of the measurement of DC plus the measurement of AB. So when we did this in the past, it looked like this. Right? Top plus bottom divided by 2. What's top plus bottom divided by 2? So we did it like that. Now we are going to prove that XY is equal to 1/2 of DC plus AB. So in your proof, you will have to generate measurements for XY, DC, and AB. And when you solve it, the left side should equal the right side. Does that kind of make sense? So what you're going to do is you're going to measure the top. You're going to make sure that when you solve it, you get 7 equals 7. But we don't have any numbers in this problem, do we? So the expression you get on the left has to equal the expression that you get on the right. All right. So it's kind of it's a pick and conquer task here. Do you want to calculate the length of xy first, of DC first, or of AB first? Which one do you want to tackle first?
DC.
Yeah, we could do that, but I want to start. I think it'd be easiest to do the bottom first.
Oh, okay.
The bottom. AB. So we want to figure out how long is AB. The application says to use the distance formula. Or we can just look at it and see if we can justify the length. How do you get from A to B? You go over how far? You go over 2 A's. Does that make sense? Or do you want to see the distance formula? You got it? Okay, so right now I am substituting out AB and calling it 2 A's long. 1 down, 2 to go. Thoughts? Is it okay? Now let's go with Julia said and find the length of DC. So for the length of DC, can you see it, or are we going to have to calculate it? 2C is the height of the trapezoid. We're going to have to calculate it. Okay? So if we're going to calculate the length of DC, we're going to have to use the distance formula. Remember, the distance formula says x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Throw up noise? Does that intimidate anybody? It should. It should be intimidating a little bit. What is 2D's minus 2B's? It's 2D's minus 2B's. What is 2C's minus 2C's? 0. And what's 0 squared? 0. So now we have the square root of 2D's minus 2B's squared. The same thing of saying the square root of 3 squared. What's 3 squared? What's the square root of 9? So the square root of 3 squared is just, so what's the square root of 2D minus 2B squared? So this length, when you solve it, is 2D's minus 2B's. So DC has been calculated as 2D's minus 2B's plus 2A's. Now, did that require calculation? No, it didn't really. So I'm gonna open your eyes and save yourself a little bit of time. How do you get from here all the way over here? You go over 2D's. Do I want this part right here?
Minus 2.
So if I take away that 2B's, I get 2D's minus 2B's. If you like that way, you can use that way. If you don't like that way, you can use the distance formula. Same result. So right now we have that xy is equal to 1/2 of 2D's minus 2B's plus 2A's. We need one more piece of information. What is xy? So we're just trying to fill out this blank right here. What's the problem with calculating the length of xy? There's no coordinates there. So unfortunately, we have to create the coordinates without creating any new variables, and then find the length between the two coordinates that we created. Let's reason through the first one. To go from here to here, you go over 2 B's and up 2 C's.
It's B of B, or over B of C.
Because this is the mid segment, it's exactly in the middle. So instead of going over 2 B's and up 2 C's, you go over 1 B and up 1 C. So this coordinate location is B, C. Over B, up C, over B, up C gets me to 2 B's and 2 C's. Now, the other side, good luck. The only way I can figure that one out is by actually using the midpoint formula. So the midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 divided by 2 and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So I have to use these two coordinates to calculate the midpoint. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So the 2 on the denominator is going to pretty much eliminate the 2's on the numerator. So instead of having 2d's plus 2a's divided by 2, you're going to have d plus a. And 2c's divided by 2 is just 1c. So that midpoint is dA plus c. Sorry, d plus a, comma c. And the last step, we're almost there. To find the distance from BC, B, comma C to D plus A, comma C. Distance formula. Let's see if I have some space to do this. The square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So D plus A minus B is D plus A minus B. C minus C, 0. So the square root of D plus A minus B squared, this radical and this exponent cancel each other out. We have just discovered that it is D plus A minus B.
So is that the same as that one?
It's same thing. If I go from here to here, I have to go over D plus A. But I don't want this little part right here, which is B. So it's D plus A minus the B. You could have reasoned your way through that without doing the distance formula. Okay, we're almost there. Does this side equal this side? Do they say the exact same thing? This one says D plus A minus B. This one says 1/2 times 2D minus 2B plus 2A. What does this 1/2 do to all these 2's? Half of 2 is D. Half of negative 2B's is a minus B. And half of 2A's is an A. Positive A, positive A. Positive D, positive D. Negative B, negative B. This is your proof. You did it. You made it true. Let's go. Welcome back. Thoughts?
It's pointless.
It's not pointless.
Come really lost.
so
Okay, you're lost. So you feel like maybe one more might help you gain some understanding.
Maybe.
Okay, let's try. Let's go back to number 1. This is payback.
For
What?
You know why. For all those little things you do that annoy me. I'm having a great time up here.
Did you get like this?
This is the only joy I get from
We didn't
teaching.
do anything.
I know.
Chris
You're gonna do something in the future. I'm like, remember that one time I taught you geometry with no numbers? All right, so look at this one. This one says you're gonna use the distance formula. I know that this is an isosceles trapezoid. All you have to prove is that AC and DB are the same size. All you have to prove is that this piece equals this piece. You have to prove that from here to here is the same distance as here to here. And on an isosceles trapezoid, that should be true, right? So it's going to be true for an isosceles trapezoid that has no numbers. How do you find the distance from one corner to the other corner? The distance formula. You want to do green or red first? Green first. So the way you set this up is really going to help you. I'm going to make this my x2 and y2. I'm going to make this my x1 and y1. Because, God bless you, x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. When you subtract 0, all right, good luck. Score goals or you're going to lose. I'll fail you in your quiz. What's AB minus 0? What's A minus B minus 0? What's C minus 0?
C. A minus B plus C.
And then stop.
Oh.
And just stop. Okay? Was that too easy?
A little bit.
That is the distance from A to C. It's A minus B squared plus C squared. Talk about it. There's confused looks. Why are we stopping? Should we keep going?
It seems too easy.
It seems too easy. Okay, now you don't have to write any of this down, but you could go one step farther. You could do this. All I did was multiply A minus B out. You don't have to write that down because I don't think we need it. Okay? We're going to do the same thing for B. Okay? For BD, the red line. I'm going to make this one my x2 and y2, this one my x1 and y1. And I'm going to find the distance. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. What's b minus a? I lied. What's c minus 0? So, if we stopped right here, are those two exactly the same? A minus B and B minus A are not exactly the same. So if you multiply this out like we do on all of our warm-ups, B times B is B squared, A times A is A squared. Multiply these two things, B minus A is negative AB, and double it, you get negative 2AB. Are these two the exact same thing?
Yes.
Prove it. They are exactly the same expressions, so those two diagonals are congruent. You guys like hearing 3 equals 3. It's quantifiable in your head. But the square root of a squared minus 2ab plus b squared plus c is the same thing as the square root of b squared minus 2ab plus a squared plus c squared. They're the exact same expressions. Easier or harder than the last one?
Easier.
A little easier? Do you want to try the last one by yourself?
Sure.
Okay, that's the last one. You have one more problem to do. And I don't think it's as bad. Let me just peek at it. You're going to use the midpoint formula to prove the diagonals have the exact same midpoint. So you're going to do the midpoint from here to here. You're going to do the midpoint from here to here. If they have the exact same midpoint, the diagonals bisect. So that's the midpoint formula twice. If you do that for x and z, and you do that for y and w, and you get the exact same midpoint, you've proven that they bisect each other. They share a midpoint. So you're going to do the midpoint formula twice. You get the same answer, you did it. Would it be beneficial for you to keep your homework and notes so you can study them tonight for your quiz tomorrow, or to go ahead and turn them in right now?
Most people.
Okay, so you're going to keep them. I'm going to pick up your 7.2 and your 7.3 tomorrow before you take your quiz. All right? So if you didn't finish.
This is 7:30.
That's 7.3.
Okay.
That's 7.3. So if you didn't finish your homework last night, you have a little bit of time to finish it tonight. And you have one additional question that you need to work on for your 7.3.